Hello and welcome to my art and craft channel. My name is Sylvia and today we're going to go on to stage 2 of turning this into a masterpiece. Now if you haven't seen my video from yesterday, I'll leave a link up the top there, wherever, so that you can watch that one first, so that you can see what the process was at the beginning in order to paint over the acrylic that was originally on this canvas. So today, and believe it or not, this is like unbelievable, this room has been that warm that it was pretty much dry to touch within 24 hours. So it's a bonus for me. But I tell you now, working in that kind of heat, brain is getting a little bit fried, so never mind, I deal with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more of the phthalo blue along here, and then we're going to start putting a little bit of the water in, and I'll probably sort of try and cover this area as well, just to make it a little bit darker before we put the sort of the foam bits that you sort of see when you see the waterfall. We'll put that in afterwards, and then we will start continuing on this area here. Now here's my challenge, okay? You guys get a perfect view, right? For me, because the light is hitting the canvas, I actually struggle to see. And it was actually kind of interesting to, you know, when I was editing the video yesterday, before it went up, like some of the things that were coming up that I couldn't see standing right here because of the light reflecting off the oil colours. So anyway, I'll deal with it. I usually do, and I never ever know what I'm going to do anyway, so, and how it's going to turn out. That's just the way I work. You know, I just sort of go, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the other, and then I end up sort of walking away, going back to it, looking at it and sort of go, okay, I need to change a little bit more here, a little bit more there. But to actually have something in my mind, what I want to do, that doesn't happen. I cannot plan what I'm going to paint. Although I am trying, so let's just see how we go today. Alright? So again, what I'm going to do is, while I'm painting, I'm not talking. I'll speed it up just so that it doesn't bore you guys too much. And just to let you know, if you still find it's too slow for you, you can actually change it in the video settings. Okay? Because if you go into your video settings on YouTube, it'll say, I think it's watch time, and it'll say normal or watch speed, something like that, normal. Well, you can actually speed it up a little bit. The only downside with that is, when I'm actually talking, I'm going to sound funny, and you probably get a good crack up over it, so who cares? Come on. Alright, let's get stuck into it, eh? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to zoom into this section here so that you can see close up exactly how I'm going about it. And I just have to remember to keep readjusting the camera so that you can see every part where I'm sort of changing things, and yeah. So anyhow, I'll quickly move the video and then we'll get stuck into it. Okay, so I've just adjusted it, so we're good to go. It's a little bit lopsided probably, but that's the best I can do at the moment. I am lopsided anyway, so it kind of fits perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the number 12 flat brush again, and I'll go into the phthalo blue. And we'll just add more here. And as you can see, I can actually get it on a lot darker this time. And that's what we want right now. And just make sure that you load a good amount on your brush. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go all the way across and come down a bit more, just so that when I put all the special effects in, where the waterfall is, it's not going to cause issues when we start working on the water properly after. And instead of you watching that bit, I'm just going to quickly do it off camera and come back once I've covered it all up, because yeah, it kind of takes a little bit of time, so I'll be back. Okay, so I've done it all. Now the one thing must point out is when you're using a canvas like this, be sure to put the colour along the edges as well, okay? Because that way you don't need to frame it, because the painting will go from the front around to the side, so it kind of finishes it off, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load my fan brush, and what size this is, oh god, it's so hard to read. I think it might be a number 10 fan brush, or 14. No, it's a 14. Well, it's actually wearing out, so on there, so yeah, it's a little bit hard to read, but it's a number 14 fan brush. You can use a smaller one if you want to, and I might end up still reverting to a smaller one, but we'll see how we go. So what I'm going to do is really load it up so that, you know, I've got heaps on my fan brush. Alright, and what you want to do is, and here's the tricky bit, because it's such a big fan brush, but not impossible. So what I want to do is move from one side here, across, and then down, just like that, okay? And I'm going to leave it at that. And with this bit here, I'm going to do pretty much the same, just very lightly, go over one side and swoosh it down. So it literally looks like there's another one just there. And then what you want to do is, with your fan brush, you just want to start sort of putting all your little bits of foam in. And basically all I'm doing is just using more of the edge of the fan brush. And as you can see, I'm actually picking up some of the blue. And then this bottom edge, what I will now do is just create a line to resemble there's the water, okay? And you can sort of add more in here as well. I'm not going to do too much right now because we'll go back in later, but just to sort of give you an idea. And you want to make sure that you go in a straight line, okay? Because otherwise your water is not going to look like water, because no water sort of runs in a curve. So anyway, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can actually see where I'm putting it down here. And as you can see, I'm just going back and forth, just here and there, keeping it pretty straight. Like so. And I'm going to leave it at that for the minute, because now what I want to do is just concentrate on all this area here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and wash my brush out, and I'll start mixing up a few colours, and once I've done that I'll come back and then I'll take you through the next step. Okay, so what I've done is I've mixed up some greens. I started off with phthalo blue, emerald green, then I added a little bit of ultramarine blue, then a tiny bit of crimson, and then I added some burnt sienna to it, so it gave us a nice sort of shade of green. Then I pinched some of that and put it over to the side, and I added some yellow ochre, mixed that in. Then I grabbed a little bit of that one, put it over to one side, and I added just some cadmium yellow to it. So that gave me 3 different shades of green. And for the browns, what I've done is I've grabbed some raw sienna and some titanium white, mixed the two together to make a very light brown, and I pinched a little bit of that and add a little bit of burnt sienna, mix all that up, and then again I pinched another little bit of that mixture and added some burned umber. So again, I've got 3 different tones on my palette for the browns as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, and this one I definitely can't read, I think this one is either number 6 or number 8 flat brush, and it's nice and dry. So, but yeah, as you can see, I've got all paint all along there, so yeah, you can't see what size brush this one is, so play the guessing game. Anyhow, the one colour I didn't mix up, and I should have, and I might just quickly do that, is to create a purple that's slightly lighter, because remember we did put some purple over here, and that's actually the colour that I want to use first. Of course, and I haven't mixed it up. Silly me. Anyway, and the way we're actually going to do it is we're going to start at the bottom here and work ourselves up. And the reason why I'm going to be doing it that way is because I want it to look like the greenery that's sort of above this section here is actually going over the top. So you've got to start at the bottom and work yourself up. Normally when I do paintings I work from the top down to the bottom, but in this case we're doing it the other way around. So my apologies, I'll quickly go and mix up the purple that I forgot about, and I'll be straight back. Okay, so I've done it, I've mixed it up. So what I'm going to do is, I've actually done 2 tones of the purple. So you've got your medium purple, which is not dark, but it's also not light. And then I made one that's a tiny bit lighter than the first one. So again, I just pinched a tiny bit of it, added a tiny bit more titanium white to it in order to create the lighter colour. And from here on, I'm pretty much not going to be using any paint thinners to water it down. I'm going to try and keep it reasonably thick, but not too thick, if that makes sense. In other words, don't have way too much paint on your brush so that it doesn't end up turning into mud. And I'll show you, like, yes, I've got paint on here, but it's not super thick, okay? Yes, we'll have to keep going back, grabbing more, but at least you've got a little bit more control over how much you're actually putting down. So what I'm going to do is just start here, and I'm only putting it sort of in certain spots, so because you want the darkness, the darker colour, to sort of still sit at the back, so it sort of starts giving you a bit of a dimension, because it makes life a little bit more difficult. And again, just sort of move your brush around, let it bounce around. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab my palette knife and I'm going to go into the medium brown that we made up, and I'm just going to add a little bit here and there, just very lightly. Like so. Scratch some of that off. Got a bit too much there, but that's alright. And we're just going to add it here and there. And basically, I'll show you, you just have that little tiny bit. So basically, when you've got your palette, you just scrape a little bit, and that's all you end up left with. And you can use any kind of palette that you've got. You don't have to have a particular one. Whichever one you feel comfortable with. Now, if you remember, I did say we must put it over to one side as well. So you just basically just put a little bit on and the job's done. So here, I'm just going to do like a line. And I'll put a little bit sort of along here. Like so. So it basically looks like there's a little bit of land sitting there. So now that I've done that, I'm going to grab my flat brush again. And I'm going into the lighter colour that I made up. This is the next lighter colour. But I'm actually going to load it quite a bit. And what I'm going to do is in these areas here, I'm just going to dab a little bit on. Because now I'm actually going to go over here where it's darker, and we're actually going to use a lighter colour over here, but I will end up using the lighter colour in some of these areas as well. Now we want to go into the straight raw sienna with the titanium white, which is our lightest colour. And again, just really load it up. Because all you want to do is just hold your brush like this and just dab it on very lightly. So it just takes off just enough paint in order to leave that little bit of highlight there. And I'm going to put some along here and then down the bottom as well as along here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some ultramarine blue with the burnt sienna. Now I'm going to grab this number 4 paintbrush and load it up with the colour that we just made up. And I will show you. It's sort of more of a grey colour, a very dark grey, and we're going to use that, and I'm actually going to take some off. I just wanted to make sure I could show you properly, and hopefully you can sort of see how dark it is. And we're going to put the rockery in here like we want it to. So hence I'm using a smaller brush, and what I'm going to do is just basically just paint it in like so. And then what I'm going to do with the leftover on my brush, I'm going to wipe it onto my palette, and I'm going to start adding some titanium white to it, but only a tiny touch each time. And what I'm going to start doing is add some of that in there, just kind of dabbing it on, and then every now and then just sort of blend it in with the other. So again, we want now even a lighter colour. So again, we add some more titanium white, and we make it slightly lighter, and we're going to put that just in some of the areas. Cover it up there. Not really super happy with that, so now I'm going to leave that alone. Although it doesn't look like much, I'm going to leave it alone because we're going to end up letting that dry again, and then we'll end up adding more details to it. So now that we've done that, yeah, I just got paint all over my fingers. Beautiful. Yucky. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our number 8 flat brush again, and I will grab some more of that purple that we made up, and we can now add some more here and kind of bring it over the top a little bit. Okay, and again, make sure you do the sides, and I'm just dabbing it on just so it's sort of an indication, yep, that's purple, it'll do. I'll light my brush again, and now what I'm going to do is actually go over this area here. You would notice we're now pushing it towards the back. Now I'm actually going to go into the lighter purple. Hopefully I've got enough made up. And just with the edge of the brush, I'm just dabbing some on. And again, not covering the whole lot because we're not going to get the realism otherwise. And again, just sort of wiggling the brush around.